And I had a kid, I asked a difficult question. It was a higher level, rigorous question. And I had a kid answer it, and answer it well. And his name is Steve. And Steve's sitting there, and he's proud of himself that he answered this question right. And before I even got a chance to say, "Great job, Steve," the kid sitting across from him, Cadell, put his fist out for a fist bump and said, "Yeah, Steve, fat guys forever, brother." Boom. That's the kind of stuff that you see in my classroom. It tells anyone who comes in, my kids own my classroom. They know what to do. They know what I expect from them. And they try to, because they respect me, they try to live up to the standards that I set for them.
Standing. Oh, I stand all day. I guess I could stand.
See if it works up there. It might be a little bit better.
Is that, yeah, it's not going to do the feedback. Okay, now I have to be even more nervous up front, and now I get to look at Dr. Lane, who was in my classroom just the other day, so I really have to be honest. I agree with what both Rob and Saul said about rituals and routines. They are crucial in teaching and being an effective teacher in a classroom. And I have those rules, rituals, and routines established in my classroom. If you came into my room, you would see all the students engaged in activities and talking with one another about the activities that they're engaged in. We always open our lessons with what we call an opening, and I present the expectation for that particular lesson, the objective for that lesson, and then the students go off, excuse me, and they begin to work on the work with the materials that I've prepared for the day to accomplish what it is they need to accomplish to meet the objective for the day for that lesson. They know what the objectives are. They know we do rubrics, and we work on rubrics together in our classroom. They know how to get a 4. They know how to get a 3. They know they don't want a 2 or a 1. And so they work very, very hard to get that 4 or to get that 3. It's really, really fun to watch them sit at their tables with one another and discuss, well, look what you did here. There's not enough detail in there, and if you change this piece right here, I bet Mr. Woods would tell you you get a 4 on that piece of work. And when you conference with him, and they know that language, they know it well, and we do conferencing in our classroom with the students, and they use each other as a resource, and they use me as a resource. I'm sure you've all heard about the sage on the stage, and that's why I don't like standing here. I don't want to be the sage on the stage. I like being the guide on the side, and I work to do that in my classroom, and I want the students to be the sage. I want them to be the stars. I want it to be all about them, not all about me imparting knowledge on them, but about them using their brains and using higher order thinking skills in order to figure things out, and for me to not just give them information. And they do that in their work with one another and in their groups.
What I wanted to just add is, in my classroom, I make sure that I'm consistent, firm, and fair. My rules are the same for everybody, and the kids know that. And so they buy into it because I'm excited. I teach math. So I have a lot of students, I hate math. That's the first thing they say. And by the time they leave my class, I let them know you're going to love math. And a lot of them come back and say, thanks, Ms. Sermons. You helped me understand this. So I'm excited about them learning every day. So when I'm excited, they're excited. And it changes the environment in my classroom. And they know when they come in, they do a warm-up. They know I pull popsicle sticks, so they can't say, oh, I don't know the answer. They can't say, I don't have an answer. They have to give me something. And if they don't know, they have to ask a friend. So they buy into it because it's a community of learning. And that was my goal. It was hard for me to give up control of the classroom. But once I did that, I am more like what Mr. Tony Wood said over there. I am the facilitator on the side. So I'm just like the coach cheering them on. And I've seen a tremendous growth in my students as far as their eagerness to learn when I encourage them and cheer them on from the side, but I might have to come back, get them back in shape every now and then.
Okay, so what we've heard from these teachers are things like routines, relationships, respect. Students, you heard them talk about students working together. You've heard them talk about structures that they put in place so students could work together effectively. You heard Renice say consistent, firm, and sincere? Fair. Okay. And she also talked about a community of learners. But we know in a classroom that not everything goes well every day, all the time. So one of the questions I want to ask the group, and I think Hannah's going to weigh in on this, is not every lesson goes smoothly. How do you work to maximize learning while at the same time minimizing disruptions?
So we always hope that, is this one? Can you hear me? Okay. We always hope they go smoothly. Like when you get up in the morning every day and I go, I hope it goes smooth today. Of course we say that, but we know sometimes everybody has a bad day, just like I have a bad day and our students have bad days sometimes. And sometimes things don't go as smooth as you think they're going to go. But with the things the teachers up here already said, and I know it sounds like we're saying it again and again, but if those things are in place, the classes do go smoothly. If the rules and the routines are there, if the students already know what's expected, my children know when they come in the classroom exactly what's expected of them, and it does go more smooth. And the idea of, if I'm excited about the lesson when they come in, and I'm really excited about what I'm teaching, a lot of times the students pick up on that, and they're excited, so it does go smoothly. But like I said, sometimes one of the students might be having a bad day for something that happened before they came to class even, and it does occur, and sometimes it causes a disruption. In my class, the first 2 weeks of school, we deal with those things. The first 2 weeks of school, like everybody knows, is the hardest time just to get adjusted. It's hard for them to get adjusted to me because, first off, I talk way too fast, and they tell me, and they're like, slow down, Miss McCarthy, because we can't understand you. So they get used to me, and I get used to them. So the first 2 weeks is when we establish. I have one rule in my class. I'm respectful to you at all times, and I expect you to be respectful to me and the other students. And it works. And the students know that. So if they're having a bad day, they know sometimes they do something that's disrespectful, and the other kids call them out on it. So a lot of times it's the students that are disciplining the other students or asking them, they say, oh, you shouldn't say that. That's not right. So within the first 2 weeks, we learn that. And I have awesome students. Always have for 20 years. My students, after the first 2 weeks, things do run smoothly. But if there's a day that it doesn't run smoothly, there's a whole routine that I do, that if I have to talk to the student, I never correct the student in front of the other students, because if they're already in a bad mood, I know if I'm in a bad mood and somebody says something to me, it just makes it worse sometimes. So I will ask the student to come and I'll speak to the student by themselves, and a lot of times that they just need to tell you what happened. So just like we do, we just need somebody to talk to sometimes. And then, if it's not resolved, I'll say, well, after class, why don't you stay a couple minutes, and then we could deal with it. So, and there's times that I do things wrong. Say that I'm saying that, so they're doing group work, and I said, you need to quit talking. And it wasn't the child that was talking, and I'm wrong. That child I shouldn't be correcting the wrong child. So I always say, if I make a mistake, which I never do. No, I say I make mistakes. I say, if I make a mistake, call me on it. And I say, after class, you could talk to me about it. So it makes the class run smoothly. Because students need to know that they run that class. That's their classroom. I want them to be excited about coming in the classroom. I want them to feel comfortable when they come in the classroom, that's their classroom. And so if they have a problem, they're definitely able to come and talk to me about it. And there's days that when we're doing group work, a lot of times if a student's off, the other students are the students that get the students back on task, because the students are able to do that. Because if you think about it, a lot of times the kids will listen to each other before they listen to us. So that's the first 2 weeks we set that up, and it works smoothly for me. So if you have any questions about that, I'll be around.
So that's what it's like at a high school. But I would guess that Tony might have a somewhat of a different perspective, because kindergarten, and you too, Renice, kindergarten is where kids learn how to exhibit school behaviors. So Tony, we're going to hear from you, and then Renice, okay?
In my classroom, I have what I call a noise meter. And it's a pocket chart and in the pocket chart are the various levels of acceptance of noise within the classroom. We do have a party level on that noise meter for those days whenever we might be having a birthday party or we might just be having a celebration of some sort, and that noise meter will move up to party level. And the kids, we have a noise meter monitor in our classroom. And so if the classroom begins to get a little bit too loud, then the noise meter monitor will go around and say, the noise meter says teacher talk. The noise meter says partner talk. The noise meter says group talk, and will remind students. And within my job chart, I also have a job that's called counselor for a student. Now, I'm not having students counsel other students with very severe issues, but if a student does come in and is not feeling up to par and would like to go off and talk with a friend, they can go off with that counselor person for that day, or if they choose to pick somebody else, there's an area in the room where they can go off by themselves and be alone, either alone or with another student, so that they can calm themselves down. And if they need me to be there as a presence, I'm there as well. But I want them to learn how to care for one another, to create that community, and to learn how to be with one another. I also have in my room what I call a helper chair, and a lot of people have called that time out, but I call it a helper chair because I tell students, if you really feel that you cannot sit still and that you need to jump around the way you are, scream and yell, why don't you sit in that chair and let the chair settle you down? And it works. It works really, really well. And it's a very positive way for that to occur. It's a way for the student to control themselves. I think, and I tell student teachers this, that I became the best teacher I could ever become when I realized that I do not control my students, that they control themselves, and I facilitate that process.